Season 4 is about to start tonight. Day 1 for the AHLPSN. Hi, everyone. T-Sibs with you again. We've got Cosmo and Princess Zeus joining me as well tonight. And hopefully we'll hear from Vibes eventually. MGM and Dead Soul are away on assignment. Let's just say that. And we'll hear from them by the first weekly show, which should be this Sunday. We're aiming for a 2 p.m. start. We'll hopefully have an update for you later in the week if that's definitely happening. But we are talking tonight about the beginning of the season and the bidding that took place this past week. Again, joining me today is Cosmo and Princess Zeus. Zeus, how you doing, buddy? You and your team all set for night 1?
We're set. A little tired, but we're set. I had to make a late night decision last night. It was up until around 6 a.m. trying to make the right call. Feel like I did.
And Cosmo, who amongst many people today who got randomly assigned to an AHL team. So now, who did you wind up hooking up with, Cosmo? Whose TC are you on?
I ended up getting put on the Ice Caps this season as their TC.
All right, and you're signed up as a goaltender, so that's again, it's one of these things that we've talked about this past week amongst us, and that is how the bidding went, and we're going to touch on a bunch of things with what happened, including a lot of guys like Cosmo who've been here from the beginning and have even been management, not winding up in the bidding for the AHL, not winding up getting picked up, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Before we even start about this season, let's talk a little bit about season 3. And first of all, we want to congratulate the Charlotte Checkers. Skill Python doing a nice job over there with that team. And we congratulate the Checkers on their win against the Ice Caps. And Zeus, you and I were calling those games with Vibes, and we got to see a couple of teams really duke it out. Despite it being a 5-game series, it was a lot closer than that. But the Checkers just from top to bottom, I think we kind of realized they were an incredibly talented team who played well as a group, and we actually saw some of those guys wind up getting drafted in this NHL draft for season 4, and the Checkers just having a nice season for season number 3. But overall, general comments. I'll start with you, Zeus, just on season 3 and how PSN is progressing. How much did we move forward in season 3?
Season 3, we had a lot of dominant teams, and then a lot of teams that were kind of just like shoveled under the wayside, like they just got ran over all season.
Right.
But this season is it's a lot better looking. You don't have any prospects anywhere on any roster. So it's a bunch of well-known people to either their management or the rest of management. Hopefully the games that we get this season will be a lot closer. No blowouts.
What were your impressions of? Obviously, you were watching season 3, but from what you saw, what did you think of the talent pool that we had for season 3, Kaz?
The talent pool was, I think, it was well spread between the NHL and the AHL. It's hard to say as a person watching because I didn't watch a lot of the season itself. Due to other leagues, and I didn't want to make a bunch of noise, just in the chat box itself.
Right.
So it was hard. I did watch the finals between the Ice Caps and the Checkers, and I was thoroughly impressed by both teams. I had the Ice Caps actually winning it all, just based on how far they've gone.
Right.
And the teams they had to go through, but you can't deny the Checkers of what they did and how well they did it. I think they did a great job, and congratulations to both teams. It's hard to say if they would have won, if I could have picked them at the beginning, if they would have won. But I got to congratulate every team the whole season. You know, whether you finish last or first, you guys all put a lot of sweat and probably tears into this season. So I'm gonna congratulate every one of you guys for sticking it out and going all 82 games. That's a rough schedule to go through. I've been there a lot, and I look forward to seeing how the AHL unfolds this season with all the new talent that's in here.
So we've got season 4 about ready to start tonight. Obviously held off a little bit because of the Super Bowl, but rosters getting set now. The TC just happening. I want to talk a little bit about the quick start to season 4. A lot in the shout box today, last night and today, about managers not being happy with the lack of time that they're getting to be able to get things put together. I think it was Rentalian who said in the shout box we started a week early to not start it on time because of the Super Bowl, and I accurately put. It is nice to start right away, but considering the timeline and the Super Bowl and how quickly things needed to happen, just getting TC guys assigned today. Zeus, speaking to someone who's in management now, what has it been like to try and get things together in the last couple of days?
Last couple of days, man, they've been rough trying to get the rosters finalized with bidding, and then making sure everybody's good to go. Get a little bit of chemistry if some players are new to each other. Kind of go from there. But it's been a little rough because the amount of time we had between the off season, being that I went really deep into the playoffs.
Right.
It took me like 2-3 days, and I was like, okay, I got to get this team getting ready to go in like a week. And then by then, draft was happening, so I didn't really have much of an off season this time around.
You think the complaining that we're seeing is valid? The way that a lot of managers and even players are feeling kind of rushed. Is it kind of valid their complaint right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's I think Charlotte Checker's GM, the Greek freak himself, actually only had like 3 days before bidding, before he was actually announced as a manager.
Right.
So he had zero time to prepare or anything like that.
So, obviously a lot of talk, a lot of guys feeling stressed out about getting things together. Does that help you guys? Do you think it helps your guys to focus, or do you think some of these teams might be a little on tilt?
Repeat that again, I'm sorry?
Do you, the sudden start and having to quickly get things together and get a team together, do you think that might put a few of these teams on tilt where they're just annoyed to have to rush into games and maybe they're not concentrating tonight? Or do you think it might make some guys focus a little bit more to be ready?
I don't know. I can't really speak for other teams. I know our guys are itching to play. Right now we have Madden, Squall, and Duke ready to face off against the first 2 opponents for our season,
right.
And they're ready. They're focused. They're ready to go. I think I did a good job trying to keep the pressure off them and just kind of like shoulder it for these few weeks or whatever. Because people think I made a controversial call, but I don't think I did. We'll see.
So Vibes joins us now. Thanks for sitting with us tonight, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Hey, what's going on? Doing my version of hopscotch. Yeah, trying to jump in at the right time. Where were we?
So we were talking about the quick start to season 4 and how managers aren't too thrilled about the idea that this is happening so quickly. They're not getting a lot of opportunity to get their rosters really set. Getting a lot of getting their TC guys to assigned to them today. Just having to make a lot of quick roster moves before the first game even starts, but having to do it within a day or two. And obviously in the shop box today, a lot of teams were not thrilled about that. As somebody who's done this job, who's been a GM, who's been management in this league, Vibes, what are your feelings about how quickly this season 4 is starting up?
Well, I mean, I understand their gripe, and I guess they have a legitimate gripe. If I was on the other side, if I was running a team, I might be complaining about the same thing. But hey, listen, the league's trying to get 3 seasons here under NHL 17, so everything is, it's moving fast. But hey, look, by week 2, you'll forget about it. You won't even remember that they did it like this. And my advice would be to just roll with the punches. It's a little bit of an inconvenience, but in a week's time, you won't even remember.
Okay. So let's, I got one more general question to ask you guys before we get into specifics about bidding. Just the general talent pool in season 4. Is there enough of a talent spread that teams need to pay more now for better players? Or is there more parity in the AHL from the guys who've been picked? Is it worth it to spend $6 million on somebody? It doesn't depend on the position and who the person is. I'm just wondering because you're right away in bidding. We saw some guys been bid up very quickly. And all of a sudden, a couple of players that I was really kind of a little surprised that they went very high, but is the demand greater than the supply? I'm not sure if I know what the answer to that is, but I'm curious what you guys think. We'll start with Cosmo, whether or not you feel like paying, several million for a player in the AHL this season is worth it. All right, well, we'll get back to Cosmo because we can't hear him just yet, but
That happens.
let me know when you're on, Cos. We'll skip to Zeus though, and let him answer this question. Big contracts in the AHL are they legitimate or is it overpaying?
Personally, there's a limit you can go to every position, so to speak. Personally, I think centers and defensemen should be your highest paid for this season, specifically because of the patch that we're on. Goalies, as you know, got completely destroyed for whatever reason, even after their quote-unquote buffs.
Right.
Being able to move faster and things like that. But it doesn't do well for the most part if you overpay on a player. I've seen forwards go for $6 million, and I'm just questioning, definitely questioning people on that one. Because, they're going to win their games more than likely if you set them up to succeed in that fashion. But if you get the playoffs, they're still only going to be able to play 3 max. So putting $6 million in a forward is always a little bit too much. I feel like $3 million on any player is reasonable as long as you know what you're getting. When you go to 4 or 5, that's when you get a little bit questionable. Then 6 or higher, it's just like, what are you doing?
I think we have Cosmo back. Cos, you got the question right?
Yes, I did. I am back. It's hard to say, really. I think it personally depends on the position. $6 million on a forward, that forward better be getting you 150 points and 6 goals a game. Defense totally depends on the defenseman. Some defense are worth it. And goalies, I personally don't think you should be spending more than $2 million on a goalie. If you're putting $6 million on a goalie or $3 million on a goalie, he better be giving you a backpack. Or you better give him a backpack either way. Because goalies, they're dime a dozen, and especially if they, can carry you. But you should never pay $6 million for a forward unless you know that forward is going to win you every game of the season.
and he's got to win those games by a lot to be worth your $6 million. So that's a huge contract to be given a forward. So I'm saying no, that you don't give people $6 million unless you know for a fact they're going to win you that game every game you put them out and can carry every line. So that's my personal opinion, of course.
Vibes, what's your take on this and the amount of money that's been spent this season?
Yeah, I was sitting here waiting to jump in because I actually got a few good thoughts on the matter. First of all, I would tangle with Zeus on the fact that the most previous patch destroyed goalies. I think it destroyed bad goalies who were masquerading as good goalies. If you're a really good goalie, if you're a really good positional goalie, this last patch was actually beneficial to you. As far as spending high on players, I would be very hard pressed to spend $6 million on anybody. If I was going to spend that much, it would be on a defenseman. This most recent bidding cycle, in my estimation, was maybe the best bidding availability that we had, and I think I would say the prices should have been down. As far as overpaying on a forward, I'd rather chew my own balls off because forwards are a dime a dozen, and you should be able to find. Unless they're at that, there is a threshold. Every position has a threshold to where it's like, look, I gotta go after this guy, and no matter what it takes, I gotta be able to land him and put him on my team. That being said, I would be very hard pressed to spend high on a forward. If anything, it would be on a defenseman. But $6 million, I mean, that's high. That's high. To me, that's getting into the category of you have no idea what the fuck you're doing. And excuse my language. And I do think that the bidding was way over for what it should have been this season. Considering, I actually made a joke and I said that I bet you that I can make the playoffs with $5 million in cap. If you give me $5 million in cap, I'd be able to take the leftovers and make the playoffs off of a team. But anyway.
I mean, I still think, we're only in season 4 for PSN, so I think that's still possible. I think you could probably do something along those lines. As the seasons go on, I think it gets tougher and tougher because you're gonna get that level of player. There's always an influx of newer players, but I think guys. It's not like they play 10 years and retire because they can't play anymore. We could be playing this game forever. So the talent pool is just going to get greater, and I think you could probably do it with any bunch of guys who wind up showing up who have some experience playing in club or whatever. But I think right now, at least for the first 3 seasons, and we'll see if it really matters in season 4, I think you've been able to get away with what you're saying, Vibes, and not having to spend a ton of money on anybody. Look, if you get a J. Claus, do you break the bank for him? I could make the case for that, sure, but how many of those are around?
Even a player like him, though, I mean, listen now, that's the type of player I'm talking about. What is a threshold where you say, all right, I'm going to go get this player. You know what I mean? But even him, even let's say you do land a guy like it, that's still only 33% of your games. You know what I mean? That's not even enough to make the playoffs. If you're going to kill yourself for one player in this league, in LG, it's not a good way to approach the situation, at least in my opinion.
So let's just talk about some of the things that we saw, and we'll start off with the first item on our board here about defenders. I think it was general consensus that we felt defenders were a bit thin. I think the way we saw right D's go off in the draft right away says a lot, and I think in general defense probably is a bit thin, and I think it's right D that suffers. It suffered last season. I think it's suffering somewhat this season, and I don't know what the numbers are, but I don't think we got a lot of influx of new defensemen for season 4. Do you guys agree with the idea in total that we're thin on defenders this season, and how do you think that plays out in the overall scheme of how a team has to function this season? We'll start with you, Vibes, if you have any thoughts on that. Oh, wait a minute. Did I lose everybody? Okay. I may have actually lost everybody. Let's get them back on a phone call here in a little bit. Again, this is our bidding show / beginning of the season show here for LG AHLPSN. I'm T Sibs. We will get the team back on the line again here in a minute and talk to Zeus, Cosmo, and Vibes Digital. We got a little bit of a technical issue, and so we'll get these guys on here shortly. And we will also have a live show coming up this Sunday at 2 p.m. We got Vibes back now.
Yeah, you got cut off. You got to get all these guys back in.
Yeah. I'm working on that right now. I don't understand what happened there, but we lost everybody online. So we have a show coming up this Sunday, and we're going to be hopefully going on around 2 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday afternoon with our first weekly show that will be reflecting of week number 1, which starts tonight with a couple of games and a triple up, I believe, tomorrow night of 3 games on Tuesday. So, and then 2 on Thursday to make up for the 2 games we didn't play last night. And so we've got Cosmo and Vibes back, and I'll try and get I will get Zeus back on here in a second. But I want you guys, I'll start with you, Vibes. The idea that the defenders this season were thin as far as bidding and maybe even draft. We saw a lot of right Ds go in the draft. Again, a lot of defensemen got paid pretty well, and even a guy who used to be a forward, one of my buddies from Tucson last year, Intro 999. Wound up being a defenseman this season, and I believe he got $4 million on his contract. Do you believe that there is a lack of defenders, a lack of good defenders in the league this year, Vibes?
No, I don't. But I do think that if we were to point at one position, I would say that defense was maybe a little thin in comparison to the rest. You still had enough people to fill, but as far as that upper end talent, you could make the case that it was a little bit thin.
Cosmo, what did you think about our defense overall this season?
I have to say it was pretty thin. We had enough for all leagues, which is a good thing, but the upper end defense was pretty thin. Just looking at the list of defenders we had, I'm not sure if it was due to players wanting to switch positions because they didn't like how the old patch fixed it and they all wanted to go play forward, or we're hoping to get a good team for a lower price by switching to forward. But I do believe that defense was spread thin this season, whether it was just because they got called up to the NHL events, or they retired, or the reasoning for it. But I have to say it was spread thin this season.
What about you, Zeus? The idea of defenders being thin in this year's bidding, draft and bidding, do you feel like that was the case?
I mean, I know me personally, I was trying to go for a defender up at like 7 million mark. So,
oh, really?
The good defenders are really hard to come by this season. I feel like a lot of the really, really good ones are obviously in the NHL where they belong. And then, we got a lot of forwards that are trying to do defense down here because they couldn't get picked up as forwards at the NHL level, but they're still good players. So the basic mechanics for them, they got the stellar thumbs, but they're a defender this season around. So it's kind of hard to tell. We're going to see who is phenomenal and who is not. But I think that we're not going to come across anybody that's like absolutely garbage. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just don't think that's going to happen. I feel like it's more of a team game than it ever has been, especially since like most of the league knows each other in one way, shape, or form, because it is going into the fourth season. A lot of us are becoming a little bit more recognized, especially you, Sibs, with your amazing voice
Well,
and vibes with your fedora, and Cosmo with his extremely unorthodox goalie stance. But his diving has never let me score, so I can't really say it's bad for him.
well, it's interesting you say that because notoriety means something. You know, if you have a name that people know, it does help to let people at least consider you. And so, sometimes I wonder if my notoriety,
unless you're me,
unless you, yeah, well, yeah, they see your name and yes,
then they run away.
They may stay away. But no, I sometimes I feel bad about it because I think I'm getting way too much credit for being a decent goalie when they just know the name because they've heard it a lot. And so, in a general discussion about that, we see, this year we saw a lot of well-known players not getting bids, and wind up dropping to the CHL, and now they're sitting on training camps. Was it just? I'm going to jump to that issue. Was it justified that that happened because of an influx of newer talent, what you called vibes, a youth movement, quote unquote, over well-known players from previous seasons, or is it that we've got newer management who are not that familiar with a lot of the names? Who have been in the league for the last 3 seasons? Maybe they joined last year. Maybe they're still catching up. There's a lot of management in there that we do know that have been around. But is it a combination of both? What is it that has made a lot of these names, like a Thorpe Clan, Bad Intentions, Cifea, who was in season 2 finals for PSN? On the AHL side, King Dano, I think now is on a team, but these guys weren't initially bid on. I'm going to start with you, Zeus. What is causing these well-known names to not get picked up in bidding? Is it more talents there now to pick from, or is it management who don't know these guys, or is it a little of both?
Definitely agree that it's a little bit of both, because if you think about it, right, I think there's 1 or 2 management this season in the AHL that were CHL the previous season as like a first-time player in the league itself. So they're making the transition to the next level. So they think that the players that they remember from the CHL will do great. In some cases, it's going to work. Some cases, not so much. But because those new players are coming in, even the old management, they don't know who they are.
Right.
Because it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Let's just say, for sake of argument, the CHL owner comes in, picks up an entire CHL-based team, and then they run ship. Then we're looking at Hershey Bears season 3.
Right.
Because that's pretty much what that team was. It was CHL season 2 players.
There's a lot of guys from Kingston, I believe, and probably a few from London. But I absolutely agree with that. I think that's a good point. Maybe we've gotten a combination of both. Because if you look at these rosters, the guys who've been around for a while who are management, you can see that they've picked up guys that have been in this league from the beginning. And if you see newer management, you're seeing a lot of guys on their team that maybe we haven't seen much of.
Right.
It is a combination of a couple things, like you guys have alluded to. I think it's a little bit of CHL guys coming up through the ranks, taking management in the AHL, and they're sticking with their CHL boys. I think that there's a few guys who honestly probably should have been in the CHL all along, but it was a new league, so
right.
They were up here and they made a name for themselves, and they're household names to us, and we love them, but they probably talent-wise do belong in the CHL. And then I do think that there's also another factor where people who kind of rode the bench previously in previous seasons are now taking management, and maybe it's a little bit of a revenge factor where they're like, I rode the bench for you. Well, I ain't going to bid on your ass, So I think it could be a whole bunch of things thrown into one. And then some people are making the right decision by not bidding on guys that we know. Just because we know them doesn't mean they're worth the bid. But then there are people who are dropping balls. Like for example, Sifea. I mean, he's a decent defenseman, and like I've said several times in the shout box, I think he's an even better forward. So he was certainly worth the bid, and probably should have gotten. I don't know if he did. I guess he fell to the CHL, right?
I believe that is the case.
And in my opinion, that's a ball drop. And there's a few situations like that where I think people just drop the ball.
Vibes. He did. He fell to the CHL. I saw him in the crowd box earlier. Looking for asking about some scouting games to see if he could get in, or asking them if people need a D-man to look at before bidding ended. So he, unfortunately for him, he did fall down there, which is a shame.
Yeah.
However, I have to agree, it is a mix of both. New management, and they wanted their CHL guys, or maybe some of these CHL players just impressed these guys so much in the scouting games.
And a little revenge porn.
Well, some of these AHL guys didn't do so well in the scouting games, and the CHL guys did, and they were like, "I want that guy on my team." He did better than so and so. He's gonna do well for us. And it could be revenge. Or it could be guys who have quit in previous seasons on teams because they were doing bad. So they were like, why do I want that guy? He might just quit on us if we don't have a great season.
Yeah.
I've seen that through many leagues and many different forms on the LG site in multiple areas. So
yeah,
it could be through all of them.
4-H Pestilence reminding me that Fea was in the finals the last 2 seasons, and so definitely a player who's had some experience on good teams. And if nothing else, even if you are not convinced that he might be worth a lot of money, a guy with that kind of experience, you hate to not see some bid put on him because, obviously the guy's been around on winning teams. He knows how to win.
Yeah, and he's decent. That's obviously, in my opinion, an AHL caliber player who's now dropped to the CHL. But I also don't want to make this a free Fea segment.
So let's bounce on to the next subject that we talked about, and it kind of flows in with what we just talked about, and that is the abundance of good players. And again, we might just be rehashing a topic we just got on, but again, a lot of talent this season. Not just repeats from the last 3, but we know about, at least we heard about, a lot of influx from guys from Xbox side who wound up in this draft. We had well over 900 players available for bidding. That also has to. I don't know if that makes anybody's job easier or harder in management. We'll start with you, Zeus. As far as being able to understand the level of talent that's out there and the abundance of it, do you feel like even if you make a mistake in bidding and somebody isn't the right person, there's enough other talent out there you can go to? Do you feel like maybe you don't know them well enough to know whether or not that talent level is really out there? Talk to me about the abundance of what appears to be a lot of good players available for us in the AHL.
I mean, I had multiple chances to get a lot of players. My bidding this season was kind of condensed, but there was a lot of good players. A lot of people stood out. There was even a lot of CHL players that got onto my roster. That's how much they impressed me. And I mean, it sucks, but like I even had to, I had to waive Kitty King today. I really did, because I just had to have roster compliancy. I didn't want to do it.
You're getting a little bit of heat from that in the shout box right now.
I've gotten the fire, but I I believe in the decision that me and Madden's both made. It was nothing that we did lightly. Kitty is both first and foremost, he's Madden's, and I would consider my friend. And we just did what was best for what we thought was the organization. That's really all it was.
But
And that's what you do as a manager.
yeah.
You should stand by what you do.
It's the worst decision I've had to make, and hopefully I will have to make all season. If I could go back and do it again, I obviously would. But hopefully it pays off. You got people like, let's see, how many Shopbox people want me to call them out?
Well, you know what?
I'm gonna talk about global warming because Bob Swaggart is the only one that said don't talk about me.
I don't want to pivot into a segment about trades prematurely here, but there is a trade that you made that I do have to talk to you about, whether off the air or on the air. I'm not sure, but
you might as well do it here if you feel like it. It's up to you.
It was Tanger for Who's Duke.
Yeah, why did you trade Tanger for that?
Okay, so
why?
Tanger.
What was that?
This is how it was going to work.
Did you get high? Is that what happened? You got high and you just decided you were going to... Go ahead.
So I asked Tanger. I was like, hey, I need a right winger to play on Monday. Are you available?
He's a left wing.
Hold on. Let me get you an exact quote real quick. Oh, wait, I left the chat. Never mind.
All right.
So
Just give the generals on this.
It was a matter of, I signed up for left wing, I only play left side, deal with it. Okay, first of all, you're not in charge of the team. I am. Second of all, I'm asking you, so I can't be like a beggar. I can't ask you to play right wing. But the person that he would have been overruling on left wing was the AGM. That's not happening. We're not bending over for
I'm surprised. I'm surprised at Tanger because he's not like that. I'm surprised.
He was to me. He was also kind of upset that he didn't get an NHL bid. He was on Rye's team last year, so now he's on his AHL team as the last spot filled.
Well,
so he's upset. He's salty. And, it is what it is, but I'm not going to have that kind of a player on the organization. I just won't do it.
And you shouldn't.
I get the feeling that's going to happen a lot more, guys, because of what we were just talking about. A lot of these guys who've been playing could have even been playing NHL, could have been starting and being on one of the better lines in an AHL team, and are finding themselves on the TC roster, and they're upset. But, I mean, you've got to be realistic. So many more guys are playing now. There are so many more available players out there, and you can't think because you were there early on and part of a smaller group of players that were available that you're always going to be at the top of the list. And I think a lot of these guys are just not getting that.
That's not fighting, guys. That's foreplay. There's a difference.
We're gonna make up later.
That's foreplay. All right, it's not fighting.
But yeah, no, it was just a simple fact of just like I got a deal, I got an offer for him. It was like, yo, you want Who's Duke? And I was like, I know that name. Guy gave me a headache in season 2 in the CHL, so I was like, hell yeah, the guy knows how to win. Like he led a President's Trophy team. Like I'm sorry, but that's just experience I want. Hey, and it's another player that has management experience, so hell yeah, I'll take it.
Honestly, and I gotta say this, dead honest, if I hadn't had a bid put on me in the AHL, would not have shocked me. Why? Because I saw the list of goaltenders that were there. A guy like Trip 23 doesn't get a bid on him, but I do. I think that's ridiculous. I think I actually
Optimus Rhyme, Price 31. Those are a couple of the goalies. They're both on Tucson.
And I think they're all better than me. And again, if you get involved in the practice games and all that, the scouting games, I get all that. But there's definitely a ton of talent out there. But I was realistic in thinking that if I don't get there, I'm not shocked because there's a ton of talent there. And I want to believe that guys in this league understand that. But obviously, there are some of them who are going to be pissed, who are going to think it's a slight against them, that the league is against them, whatever they're going to think, and they're just not thinking realistically about it.
I disagree, by the way, Sibs. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit there. I think you're a better goalie than Trip.
Okay, I'm my
you
worst
only
critic,
held me to 5.
Yeah.
I think.
And you had, here's the thing, you had 3 defenders, 2 goalies, and only 1 forward on that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind. You guys did good last night.
Look, I think I'm pretty good, but I'm just saying there are guys who are at least comparable to me, if not better. And so I understood that I could be in the CHL, and I was fine with that. And I just don't get why guys can't be like that.
But that league's fun.
There's some guys. I mean, like, I guess at this point, it's safe to say the league isn't going to give me $5 million and say, okay, make a team and make the playoffs. So, right. I guess I could let some of my chips down. But I don't think Rickshaw got a bid, did he, as a goaltender? I think he got passed up. No,
I
think
don't
so.
know that for sure, but yeah, you might be right.
and that's definitely a goalie who I would have definitely would have given him a bid,
Well,
and I don't think he got picked up.
yeah,
So.
I mean, there are a bunch of guys. I mean, I'm looking at a training camp roster for the Marlies, and I'm seeing Sabres 930, and
Hmm.
and this guy he's had some hard luck of being on teams where he's a goaltender who's had the most shots on goal against him for a season or two, and he still does fairly well. Again, uh, if his numbers didn't look great, did you look deep enough in the numbers to find out why that happened? And so again. There are a bunch of guys I've seen who I think could easily be in the AHL. But I don't know. Just to finish up the idea, I think guys have to be realistic. I think most guys are. But I think there are the guys who are chirping in the shout box and everywhere else, I think they're very self confident, and I get that, and that's great, but you've got to be realistic at some point.
And that is confirmed, by the way. Rick did get dropped to the CHL. He's on the Wolfpack's farm team.
All right, so
Camp.
let's move on because we do want to keep moving on this list here. Um, the balance and redistribution of positions was a topic that I think we wanted to talk about. We had a lot of guys who have switched this year, who have gone back to defense because they saw a shortage in defense, and saw that they had opportunities maybe to make the NHL roster. And so we probably have more balance in some better players who may not be known to be playing defense, but because of their skill, could probably play it pretty well. We're going to find out. But is that is that a good thing for the league in general? I'll start with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to start with Cosmo because we haven't heard from him in a while. I want to make sure he's still alive. Uh, is that a good thing to have this redistribution of positions where we're getting more guys who are moving to the D spot?
It is. I agree. Whether they're moving back to D or goalie, and I'm going to say this from my experience personally because I had literally gone through and changed my position to goal or to left wing. And then I looked at the signups and I was like, not many goalies. So I was like, all right, I'll switch back to goalie. And so I switched back. And then I was actually expecting a message from Mooner himself or even Man Bear Pig to tell me, stop changing your position, you're confusing us. Because I had switched, then I had switched back to the original position I had signed up at. Because I wanted to make sure there was enough players at the position that was least likely to have a lot of players. So redistribution of players at positions with less players is a good thing and can help the community grow. So redistribution is a good thing.
How do you feel about all these guys switching around, Zeus? Bunch of guys dropping back on D, maybe a couple of people dropping back to goalie, especially when you don't know what they can really do in that position. What is that? What is in your mind when you see a decent forward decide now that he wants to play defense?
It makes me happy.
Okay.
Um, a lot of teams, a lot of. How do I say this? Rephrase that. A lot of good teams have defenders that can score. Now, what's the best thing to have in a defender in an offensive zone? The instincts to know when to move up in the play, make the necessary move, and score. I have two defenders on my starting roster that have done nothing but play wing that are now defenders. Skimore played with him in season 1, picked him back up because he's a defender now. Iron Man has played forward for, I think, seasons 2 and 3, if I recall. He did phenomenal. I think it was like 40 or 50 points. Not bad. Now he's playing defense for me. But both of those players know how to score from the blue line or taking the puck and moving it themselves. That's just as important as being able to stop a rush or break up a pass, in my opinion. Because, yes, defense can win championships, but so can scoring goals. And the league itself has put power rankings for my team being third in the highest of forwards. So we're going to score. It's just a matter of how many.
Vibes,
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm done.
All right. So, yeah, Vibes, I know you were chomping to get in there. So, again, position change this season for a lot of players. Talk about that.
I'm going to step up the foreplay and say the more D, the better. Yeah, I mean, I think that having some guys switch to D. If you look at and I think it was Jumpy G that did the breakdown. If you look at the breakdown, it's pretty even. It's definitely by far the most even it's ever been. I think there may be like a maybe 5 percentage point disparity between right wingers and maybe the rest, where the rest are coming in like 15% of the bidding pool, and then right wings are maybe 20%. It's definitely a lot more even than it's ever been, and I do think that that's really good for the league. When you see a really good forward such as Intro switch to defense, you maybe get a little disappointed because he is such a good forward, but if you know Intro and you've played with him before, he's a really good defender. So that to me is a plus for the league.
Right. Let's move on to next topic. Again, I think we touched on this. Actually, I'm going to bring up a couple of things in a row here. We talked about a lot of goaltenders being available, but despite that being the case, a lot of some of the AHL bids that went on goaltenders were still big on a couple of them. And again, Zeus, is that a disparity of levels of goaltending? You know, we talk about something like fantasy football. You talk about tiers of players and whether or not what's the first tier, what's the second tier, third tier. Is there a disparity in tiers of goaltenders, and that's why a few of them, are the game changers, quote unquote, and the rest of the pool you can pick from, and it doesn't matter. What was your feeling about goaltending this season in the AHL?
I wanted to make sure that we got at least one named goalie. Has been proving themselves. They're established in the league. They'll come through for us if we need them. We got Newfie. He's had a decent season on a bad Toronto team last season.
Right.
Still went 500. That's hard to do on a bad team. And he was playing out of a hotel all last season.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow.
he had personal issues going on with wife and kids. So
what is he,
he
a
took care of
hooker?
that.
All right.
No.
Well, we don't need to talk about
I don't want to go
that.
into details about it, but it's better now. He's returning home this week.
Well, we do know guys play out of a McDonald's Wi-Fi connection, so
Exactly.
it shouldn't surprise me so much. So yeah. So and I like Newfie a lot. I like the way he plays the game. He has adjusted, and I've seen him play recently. He's adjusted fairly well to the tuner, and I think that's probably the big roll of the dice for this season. Is the tuner came out not long before the bidding, and so who adjusted and did they adjust well?
Mm-hmm. But then we went and got ourselves an unknown to kind of back him up.
Mm-hmm.
The unknown we got, even though he went 1-1 in preseason, I ruined his shutout personally because didn't want him to have one. Had to haze him a little bit because it's his first game in the AHL. But he's good. A lot of people may not know him, but he's actually really, really good.
Yeah, we faced him last night when we matched up with you guys on the late game after the Super Bowl last night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think your team is fairly strong, and you've taken that chance. And I think maybe in goalie, it's not a bad idea to get the one guy who is a solid player, and then take a chance on another goaltender. I think that's a valid a strategy. I want to talk to Cosmo about this because how well he knows the position and has looked over these rosters. Is that for what Zeus is talking about here? Is that a good strategy for goaltending this year? Should you lock down the one good starter and then get a solid backup? Much like the real NHL does these days.
Oh, that's a solid plan. You want that. That's a solid thing. You want your starter to be solid. Do you? How much to pay? It,
Um,
that's hard to say.
oh,
I personally don't think you should pay over 1.5 mil as a AHL goalie unless you know that goalie can steal you games. If you got yourself a 00 on your team, yeah, pay more. Um, that's my personal opinion. But the goalie's going like I see this one here on the Heat. Not to call him out, but he's 3.25 mil. That goalie, he better be winning you 6 games a week every week. They have a good goalie and a backup at 500K in Trash Clown, so they did well there. But that's a lot. That 3.25 is a huge hit to your cap for a goalie. So you got top goalies on some other teams, such as SGD Dragon Slayer, good goalie, 500K. That's a steal. So they played smart with that. They also have Ty's got Kush, another good known goalie, in 500K. Coming off, this is his last season on a 2-season deal. So they 1 mil for two solid goalies. Both could be starters. That's great. I like that plan. What they did there. Then we go over here to the crunch.
Well,
Um,
I'll give you one more. I'll let you have one more example here, but then I want to get the vibe. So go ahead and talk about the crunch
yeah.
here.
Okay, the crunch here. Both goalies, 3 mil. They're both good goalies. But that 6 mil for two goalies is huge.
It does seem steep.
That's huge on two goalies. I wouldn't pay that.
yeah, especially since like one will eventually not play.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Actually, Killer Rampage is known better as a right wing. I don't know if he plays goalie over here more often. I haven't really looked at him, but that's still 3 mil on two goalies. Both of them being 3 mil, that's huge.
Well,
Um,
Hunter is saying the best strategy is to do what he did and make one of your goaltenders an AGM. I suppose if he's good enough and you feel like he's worth the big contract, that's probably that might not be a bad idea. Vibes, obviously, you said before that you are a bit conservative about handing out the contracts. What's your threshold on paying a goaltender?
Well, first of all, I totally disagree with Hunter. Making your AGM a goalie, unless he is of that threshold, is an awful idea.
I'd agree. I'd agree.
I
By the way, because I was I was Broski's AGM, and I thought it was a
yeah,
waste of money.
yeah, that's terrible. And not in your case. In your case, that was a great decision, but in most cases, it's terrible. Again, goalies are an odd beast. I think that all positions have kind of this weird threshold to where it's like, you know, elite versus just kind of run of the mill.
hmm
And goaltenders are a little bit odder because I think that there is a quicker drop off there. If your goalie's not going to really steal games for you, I mean, again, like I just said about the whole me making a team for 5 mil and being able to make the playoffs, that especially is true with goaltenders because telling you right now, I can go out and get a goaltender right now who is never bid on for 500K, who is just as good as, if not better, than the goalies that these guys spent 2.5, 3, even 3.5 mil on. There are a few goalies who, in this particular bidding cycle, were worth a very high total because, again, I think that the drop off was pretty steep. So a guy like Ham and Cheese, I mean, I do think that he was worth what they paid for him. The guy's got some pretty big games under his belt. He had like a 17-4 record or something like that in the NHL with a pretty high save percentage. So he is worth it. But then a lot of these guys who they're shelling out, I don't want to go individually like Cosmo was doing, but there's a whole lot of them who weren't worth anywhere near what they got. The fact that some of these guys got anywhere near $3 million is,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about it, really.
So I think in Hunter's case, for the goals, Clutch Dolphin is his AGM, and Clutch had a hell of a season last season, and so I kind of feel like you could justify that one if you've got somebody like Clutch, if you've got a 00, like you said, somebody like that, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Well, let's. I tell you what. I want to not be on here forever and ever because we've got games to play tonight. Thank everybody who's been watching the show tonight. We got a couple of questions two questions left for our panel tonight. Number one, very general discussion about what team won bidding as far as you're concerned, or not just bidding in the AHL, but as far as creating their team, whether or not they got guys who came down from the NHL, whether or not they picked them up in their own bidding. Let's just talk in general. What team do you think did a really good job in putting their squad together? Anyone want to start first? They have some thoughts and ideas of who they would pick as their number one team?
As far is this the team to watch, or are we doing just the
no,
who won?
just who you think won in general and putting together the roster? I got to be honest. One of the reasons I really want to ask this is because we've seen this for the first few seasons. We see teams who look like they're gangbusters after bidding is done, after guys are shifted around. Waivers are done, trades are made, and somebody on paper looks fantastic. They play well for a few weeks, and all of a sudden they disappear. And I think we've seen that in the first few seasons where we've seen teams come up, with the exception of Rockford in Season 2. We knew that they were just ridiculously good and we're going to be there. I find it interesting to look at this now because this could be very different, halfway through the season. So I'm looking at teams, and I'm, my thoughts are going to be based more on defense and goaltending because, to me, in my mind, that is huge as to whether or not a team is going to be successful. I've seen it too often in playoff games. You see plenty of good forwards. Whether or not you've got good D who know how to stop the lanes in these games, I think that's incredibly important. So that's probably how I'm going to look at it. But Vibes, I don't know if you want to start first, if you want to talk about a team who you think did a nice job in putting their roster together.
Yeah, well, I can allude to two teams who I would consider to be winners. The first being the San Antonio Rampage.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a really nice job of filling out an entire roster. They really didn't spend. I don't really see many positions they overspent in. They shelled out some money for forward, so they did shell out some money in certain areas. But overall, I don't think they overspent. They formed a very, very strong roster with still $6 million to spare. So to me, I would say that they did very well. I was looking at. I'd have to look through the roster, but I know that San Jose I would consider winners depending on whether or not a lot of those guys that they actually got in the draft are still hanging down here or not. But without going over to them, I'll just go ahead and say San Antonio. I think they did a really strong job in regards to bidding.
Cosmo, do you have any one specific team that you like their makeup after all is said and done before we start the season tonight?
I'm going to say Hershey. I think Mafia Man and Bobby did a great job. I'm picking their team with known guys. I know Ethan from different leagues. He's played in the SP. I believe he plays in VG as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a veteran status, so he's played in the NHL over here as well. So, and picking out for $3 million, that's not a bad deal on him. Puff Pass, I have known in multiple leagues. He's pretty good. Other than that, I would have to say they did decent, especially getting T-Sibs and Moose back there. $5 million on Ups Wyatt. I think that's going to be, or UPS Wyatt, however you would like to say. I think that's maybe a little much, but we shall see how that plays out with that. I believe they won the bidding, actually.
Zeus, who other than the Wolves, who I think you did a hell of a job with that team. I think you guys did a nice job putting that squad together. Who do you think won the draft, the bidding? However, they had to beg, borrow, and steal to get their roster. Who do you think put together a nice group of players to start the season?
I do want to say that for the record, I was not going to pick my team just because I want to be completely unbiased this entire season as best as I can.
Okay.
However, I went and picked one team from the East, one team from the West. I think Syracuse Crunch did the best in the East, hands down. If we're going based off of just like what LG gave us numbers-wise, which can't argue with numbers, really can't. They were like 1, 2, and 1 in offense, defense, goalie category. They have $3 million to spare, so if they need to make a move for a big player who has a big contract, they can do it. I don't see them doing that. They got a lot of talent from top to bottom. They got Crippen, they've got Diecast, MVP, Sifix, the GM, JMM's returning, and they were able to pick up Drunk Kane back in a re-sign. They got Sin, and they got I Ham and Cheese Rampage. We'll see if it pays off. I think they did really good, though, with the cap that they were given. The Wild did the best. They had 5 of their defense returning. They added Vanishing Point, who was phenomenal. Didn't work out. And then they got Rask back from NHL.
Right.
They picked up MG Price. Their most, I think, like 4 or 5 forwards are returning, but they added some really good ones. I see these guys going deep in the playoffs again, for sure. Even after losing KB.
We got yours, right, Vibes? We talked to you about that yet?
Yeah, you got me.
Okay. Yeah, my old brain is not registering everything here. And speaking of old, one of the teams I like because they have some of the guys that I've been talking to over the last few months about how old we are, like Building What and a few other guys on here, Lions. I like Albany. I like a lot of the talent that they've got. FML and Broski, of course, I played with last year. I like Building What a lot, not just as a player, but just as a person. He's got a great mindset. He doesn't take anything too seriously, and he likes to have fun playing the game. And to me, that means so much when you got a guy like that. Goose Chuck is GM, Broski AGM. Punisher, another AGM. You've got a lot of good experienced leadership on this team. Dude Manrayo, I played with in Hershey season 1, and Lions, I think, was season 2. McBoozy back there in defense. A lot of good, well-known guys on this team. And maybe I'm biased against the guys who played in this league for a while, but I like Albany. I like the makeup of that team. And I think, I think because they've played long enough and they a lot of these guys know each other, the chemistry is what I think is going to be a big positive there. I liked, obviously I mentioned Chicago and the Wolves. Again, you got a lot of talent there, but you got a lot of experience there, Zeus, with Maddens as AGM, 2797, Spider, HJHF. You just got Who's Duke. I played with Emin Wild last season. I like him a lot. And then you've got Newfie as your starter. I think you guys definitely can cause a lot of trouble this season to everybody. A couple of other teams that you guys mentioned, the Iowa Wild. Again, a lot of good talent on that team. Mecca as the GM had a lot of tryouts. Wanted to look at a lot of different players, and he has a good combination of people. Bubba 17, again, I know from the Bears, and he has played up in the NHL. He is a good, solid all-around player. That defense with Angry Dangler, Offroad, Ryan was here, Suleiman, vanishing point. I see a lot of good defenders on that team, and then you throw Price and Rask as your goaltenders. This is probably my favorite defense of any team in this league, and so I expect the Wild to go far and to do well, providing they don't get poached and lose some of these guys to the NHL, and that's always a concern.
That will happen.
Well, yeah, I think on that team that's definitely going to happen. As far as anybody else is concerned, I'll talk about the team I'm going to look for in a second. But you make good points about the Rampage. Again, I think the goals. When you've got Clutch Dolphin back there, again, a lot of good defensemen, a couple of high-paid defensemen in Christmas and Dark Joe. But they've got some decent forwards who could put the puck in the net. I like Brink 13-13 a lot. I know him, played with him a lot. I believe that was season 2 on the Bears, and he's just a good team player. Passes the puck a lot. Love that about any forward. I think that's about it as far as teams that I'm going to be thinking that they're going to be a problem. You mentioned Syracuse again. Just by the leadership alone of JMM, Siffick, I like those guys a lot. Again, they did a lot of scouting. They gave everybody a chance, and I like that they did that because I think they found a lot of good talent that will carry them. Let's kick off the last question and see if we can get this done in a relatively quick order if we can. The last question being, who is a team that you're going to watch for? And what we're going to do is we're going to follow our picks of teams to watch for because we want to see if what we're saying here is this a team that we think is going to be there, is going to be interesting to watch because of the makeup of their players, or may not be on anyone's radar right now, but could very well be there deep in the playoffs if everything goes well for them. And so when we talk about a team to watch for, that's what we're discussing. I think there are several that I'm really interested in. But there is, there's one team that I'm really interested in because of the talent and because of the leadership on this one, and that's the Rockford Ice Hogs. Rentalian 34 is their GM. Beand is the first GM, and Intro, after being picked up for $6 million, is their second AGM. Again, a lot of guys on this team. Jesse, who just came off a nice run in the playoffs. 6'9", John Hardcore, Justin Knapp, who I played with last season, and I like his talent a lot. And he might be somebody who may not be well known, but it's going to surprise a lot of people about how good he is. And then on defense, Intro, Can Sub, Etsy, Bean, Inception. And then goaltenders with Craig D85 and Jeff Tremblay, who I've played with as well. They may need to make a couple of moves. I don't know, but I think they've got a roster that may look unassuming, but I think can do great things. And they've done it for not a lot of money. They paid high for a couple of defenders, and we'll see if that pays off for them in the long run. The highest contract for a forward is $1 million for Pooler. And so I think they could be a very interesting team to watch and to see how they do with such a low price tag on most of their players. Zeus, let's have you tell us a team that you're going to watch for the season.
So I'm not going to pick anybody from our division. Just the Western Central for me will be completely off limits because I'll be watching them regardless.
Okay.
But I will go with... Where's Texas at? Texas out of my division? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with them. Texas Stars. They got a lot of talent, despite what a lot of people think. I actually see them easily making playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They got Charbin, who's named second GM. Crazy Try. Fucked. Those three played with me season 1. Brubix was also on my team season 1. Apollo was on my team season 1.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I know on that team. They picked up Kuzner, who is a Xbox regular. I gave them Live by Sin for Squall. It's kind of an even trade in my opinion, but Live by Sin is a well-known name. He's great player, great guy. Straight up hacks, and then Toasty QC. I don't know too much about them, but we'll see what happens. They're like the second highest paid forwards on their roster. And then they went and got Thorpe Clan, Eddie, Apollo, Heat Pumps. A couple of good defenders there.
I like to pick up a Thorpe. That's, again, another guy who was kind of passed by in the bidding, and they picked him up, and I think that's a nice pickup for them.
Yeah, and then they got Tandem down there. Ty's got Tush and Dragon Slayer. We'll see which one becomes the starter out of them because they're both 500K goalies with similar numbers. So we'll see if one of them emerges this season as a dominant performer. But I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch because we don't know how it's going to go.
Kaz, who are you going to be watching this season?
Well, I'm kind of torn here. I've been getting hazed by Pest on Skype for not taking off the bidding. So
yeah, he's been doing it to all of us.
I'm gonna make him a little happy and say I'm gonna watch the Cleveland Monsters. They have Jay Scott. He can carry a whole team in the AHL by himself.
Right.
His line. I can't say the whole team, but
we know Jay. We know Jay pretty well. So
he's on my SP team. So, but they also have Advanced Human. Dudan Sticky is a good player. So is Advanced. I don't know if they paid a little too much for Advanced. That'll be hard to say. Galchi the Beast, I had originally picked up on the Wolves last season. I know he can do. He's a great center. He did sign up at left wing this season, which he was signed up at left wing last season as well. But he can play center. Hot Pocket Handy, I played a few games with him and drop-ins. Deer Hunter, I've heard a lot about. Never really played with him or seen him play. D Herms at center for 500K is a great steal, along with Headhunter. John Doe. I honestly don't have a clue who that is.
Well, I see.
Use your pick as well. I don't know who that is.
So let's cut to the chase here. You're going to watch Cleveland and maybe just keep Pest off your ass. I'm not. No, Pest is looking for love. I'm not giving you any love, Pest, because you sounded like you're interested in picking me up, and then you guys just blew me off. So no more love for you.
I'm sorry, but I don't get Cosmo there. He just said it's his team to watch, but then he just said he doesn't know anybody on the team.
Well,
that's why he has to watch them.
Okay.
So you can learn who they are.
I'm gonna watch. I know Big.
A little confused there.
I know Big Freeze and Jay Scott, so I'm gonna watch them. Only because Pest was mad I didn't pick his team in bidding.
Yeah, he's basically watching them because he knows Jay Scott well, and he's trying to make Pest happy. That's good enough reason. All right,
that works.
So again, that's it for tonight. We're gonna start doing.
Wait. What about me?
Oh, we didn't get to you.
I don't get a team.
Like I said, that's it for tonight. Now, go ahead. Sorry. I gotta say, normally you're not really quiet, and because you're so quiet, I forgot you were there.
Well, I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to the San Antonio Rampage. And my official team to watch, and the reason why they weren't my bidding winners is because they pressed right up against the cap. But my team to watch, my official team to watch, will be the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. As I said, they spent right up against the cap, so that's arguable. But I mean, these guys are strong as shit down the middle. They got Chico. I don't really like the guy, but he's a hell of a player. Deeds and Go Hawks. To me, that's more than enough down the middle to get you somewhere. Here's a ball drop for the entire fucking league. Excuse my language. But Chi-Town Menace, you guys let him go for a minimum bid. Not exactly sure how that happened. And then you let the sniper go for the 724 sniper go for 750. So I mean, just real quick, this forward core is phenomenal. And then they got the defense to back it up too, because they ended up with Mufang, they ended up with Fist, they ended up with Gamer, they ended up with Edwig. Excuse
Bless
me.
you.
Very solid there, and then their goaltending as well with Tech and DeBears. So that's my official team to watch. Keep an eye out for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. They will not be going anywhere anytime soon. And my honorable mention, San Antonio Rampage.
Uh, Real quick, Watery Dolphin wants me to give a shout out to the Marlies. So, Marlies, you get a shout out real quick.
Well, that might be the only time you hear about the Marlies in the broadcast this year. So Vibes is going with you're going with what? Who? Wilkes-Barre, right?
Yep, Wilkes-Barre.
WBS.
That's my team to watch. Keep an eye.
And we have myself at Rockford. I believe, Zeus, you picked Dallas?
Texas.
Oh, Texas. I'm sorry. Close. And what was your pick again, Kaz? Cleveland,
You doesn't
right?
even know.
Cleveland. It was Cleveland.
I picked Cleveland to make Pest happy. Plus, I know Jace got on the team, so
Right.
I can ask him quite a bit about how things are going and and get the streams from him for games.
And so that's about it. Like I said, we were going to be covering a game of the week, and it's going to start next week because we're already doing this show. We're going to have one again. We're going to have a weekly show on Sunday. So we're going to skip week 1, but week 2 we're going to bring you a live game, and we'll get that out to you as to what game that's going to be, what teams are involved, and we're going to bring it live to you right here on the League Gaming channel on YouTube, and that's about it for us tonight. We've got games coming up in about an hour.
Potentially. Right now, PlayStation's having a lot of issues. A lot of people are reporting that it's down, both on LG and outside of LG.
Really?
So games might be postponed and or rescheduled to Thursday. Hopefully, we don't have to do that.
Well, this season has started off well so far. A lot of guys complaining about not having time, and we might not even play tonight. Who the hell knows?
Such is the nature of the beast.
All right, well, we're going to sign off here, so if any of us can get online, we'll get some practice in and maybe be able to get some work in with our team. But again, want to thank Vibes, Zeus, and Cosmo. Again, guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate you sitting in with me to talk about this. Good luck on your seasons, and we will talk again on Sunday with the show.
Sounds good. Thanks for putting it together.
I'll be there.
Yeah, same.
That's it for tonight. That's the bidding recap and the preview for Season 4. I'm T. Sibbs, and we will talk to you next Sunday. We believe we're going to be on the air around 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon to talk about Week 1. Good luck to everyone in the first week of Season 4.